Let's go ahead and start.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started this afternoon. We want to welcome you and thank you for attending this afternoon's press conference regarding the ongoing tragic youth violence in Santa Fe County. My name is Larry Chavez. I am the Associate Superintendent for Santa Fe Public Schools, and I will be serving as your moderator today. You'll be hearing a presentation from a vast group of individuals ranging from district leadership, site administrators, and Santa Fe Public School students on this subject. We ask that you hold all questions until the end. Once all speakers have concluded, we will open it up to the press for any additional questions. When you ask your question, please state your name, news outlet, and if it's directed at a specific panel member. Now moving along to our panel of speakers, I would like to welcome Santa Fe Public Schools Superintendent, Dr. Veronica C. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. On June 5th, Aiko Perez, a recent graduate of the Academy at La Guaite, was fatally stabbed by a friend. Police were told he was under the influence of LSD. On July 15th, 17-year-old Ivan Armando Perez Chumacero, a rising senior at Capitol High School, was shot and killed during a fight outside a Southside apartment. And in the early hours of August 1st, Santa Fe High School basketball star and soon-to-be New Mexico Lobo, Vedanta J.B. White, was shot and killed. He was only 18 years old. These tragedies have been very painful for our school community. All of these tragedies were preventable. We are gathered here today as a Santa Fe Public Schools community to address these tragedies and to reach out to all of our stakeholders, because we all play a vital role to bring these types of senseless deaths to an end. What's happened over the last 2 months does not exemplify who we are as members of this beautiful community. Today, you will hear from our board president, a strong community partner with New Mexicans Against Gun Violence, key staff, but most importantly, you will hear from 2 high school principals and students who have been directly impacted by these events. It's important that their voices be heard. I will close with a few remarks to our parents and students. I want you to know that the Santa Fe Public Schools will continue to work on this with our partners, with the mayor's office, the police department, the county manager, the county sheriff's office, and other providers in our community. There is so much work to be done, but today was a day for the Santa Fe Public Schools family to address our recent losses.
Thank you, Superintendent Garcia. Our next speaker will be Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education President Kate Noble.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chavez, and thank you, Dr. Garcia. I want to first just send my condolences and love to everyone who is feeling these tragedies very personally. It is so difficult, and I want to thank the district for providing the grief and wellness resources that we have, and encourage anyone who needs it or to reach out and don't suffer alone, get support. These are really difficult things to navigate, and professional training can help. So I know we're providing some of those, and one thing I am very proud of is how well the Santa Fe Public Schools provides these resources in time of tragedy. But let's be clear, there are too many tragedies, and we have to work together. As Dr. Garcia mentioned, we need to work with our partners in the juvenile justice system and throughout the community at the city and the county to figure this out. You know, we've been focusing on the pandemic that is COVID-19, but let's remember we have another epidemic that is an epidemic of violence that we need to address, and we need to work on the isolation and any of the underlying issues and anger that can lead to violence. And Most of all, to echo a little bit what Dr. Garcia said, and I'm very pleased we have students with us today, I think we need to listen to the wisdom and the voices of our young people. So to all of you that are joining us today, thank you. Please continue to raise your voices and demand from us the support you need to make a difference and to end this epidemic. Thank you.
Thank you, President Noble. Up next is Miranda Viscoli, co-president of New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence.
Thank you, and thank you for organizing this. And yes, our condolences go to this family, the youth, and all those in New Mexico who are affected daily on the issue of gun violence, and especially our youth. And we're failing our youth, not only those who become victims of gun violence, but also those who commit the gun violence. Our youth in Santa Fe and in New Mexico have way too much access to firearms. We work with these kids through our programs, and any kid can get any gun they want off Snapchat or Instagram. And the combination of that and drugs is a lethal combination. We need to take a multi-pronged approach. We need to get gun owners to lock up their guns. We need to do more gun buybacks. We need to implement the student pledge against gun violence again, which gives our youth a voice. We need to work on restorative justice, and we need to make gun violence prevention part of our curriculum, because our children are suffering, our youth are suffering, and the access they have to firearms is something we needed to address yesterday and not today. So let's get it done now. And New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence is happy to help fund and organize any of these programs as we have in Santa Fe and New Mexico, and ramp them up a bit, because none of us want to see another child shot, by another child, and that's what's happening. So thank you very much, and thank you once again for organizing this.
Thank you, Ms. Viscoli. Our next speaker is Santa Fe Public Schools Executive Director of School Security, Mario Salvidres.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Yes, I am Mario Salvidres, I'm the Executive Director of Safety and Security. I'd like to ask Alma to bring up the PowerPoint or slide for the Sandy Hook Promise, because I'd like to give you an insight of what we have at the schools available for the children, our students. It is an anonymous reporting system. And I'll explain a little bit more with Sandy Hook, where it came from, and why we adopted it. So the Sandy Hook Promise is a nonprofit organization led by several family members who lost loved ones in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting December 14, 2012. It is an anonymous reporting system where students, staff, and community members can report threats to a school, individuals, groups of people, and it is also a mechanism where a student who may be suicidal or knows a peer who is suicidal can seek some type of assistance, immediate assistance or follow-up assistance from the school itself. This system works hand in hand with law enforcement. So if it's an incident of imminent threat, it is not held on to the next day, even if it's after hours. It is immediately routed over to law enforcement, where they can also bring in the professionals to help these students or hopefully save a life. Now, we launched Sandy Hook approximately just over a year ago at our schools, and it has been used. We have had interventions where they've been very successful. And I'll tell you a little bit more how the system works. It's a Say Something is one of their logos, which teaches youth how to recognize signs and signals. The Start with the Hello teaches youth how to be more inclusive and connected to one another. Safety and Assessment and an Intervention teaches adults in the schools and youth organizations how to identify, assess, and respond to threats of violence and risk behaviors before a tragedy takes place. And Signs of Suicide uses an educational curriculum to teach students to recognize the symptoms of depression and suicide. As Dr. Garcia mentioned before, this tool helps us out to work in collaboration with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office, Santa Fe Police Department, and the New Mexico State Police. And we're committed to continue working together to keep our youth safe. And if Malma, you just go to the next slide, please. And anybody who's interested, there's the steps there. You can report by either going to the website of Sandy Hook Promise Tips, a mobile app that you can download to an iPhone or an Android phone, or you can call a tip line, which is on the phone number was on the previous slide.
Thank you, Mr. Salvidres. Jen Jefferson, Santa Fe Public School Prevention Coordinator, is our next speaker, and she'll also introduce our first student speaker of the afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. So hello, my name is Jen Jefferson. I'm the Prevention Coordinator with the Office of Student Wellness at Santa Fe Public Schools. First and foremost, I want to offer my condolences to the families that are grieving the most current losses, and to all those who are directly and indirectly affected and impacted by the tragedies of gun violence here in New Mexico and Santa Fe. I want to encourage all of our students and parents to reach out for support from one of our many partner agencies offering behavioral health services listed here, as well as those available on the website. And Alma, if you could please put up the slide with our behavioral health resources. And again, these are some wonderful collaborating agencies that we have here in Santa Fe that are working closely with us. One of our excellent programs at Santa Fe Public Schools is the WAVE program. WAVE is the Wellness Ambassadors to Voice and Empower. And the WAVE program uses an approach of positive youth development, youth-driven leadership, positive peer support to promote resiliency and protective factors while preventing substance use, bullying, suicide, and gun violence among Santa Fe County youth. We have groups at 13 middle and high schools and have been working in partnership with the New Mexicans to prevent gun violence for the past 4 years very closely. Our groups and our students have worked to raise awareness to prevent gun violence with activities ranging from promoting the National Student Pledge against gun violence prevention, or against gun violence, excuse me, various art projects and installations, and even advocating with our state legislatures for change at the legislative level. So with that, I am honored and privileged to introduce Samantha Quintana, one of our amazing WAVE Leadership Council members. And Samantha is a senior at Santa Fe High School and is here to share a few thoughts.
Thank you so much, Jen. Hello, everyone. My name is Samantha Quintana. I am a member of WAVE's Leadership Council. I am also a rising senior at Santa Fe High. WAVE stands for Wellness Ambassadors to Voice and Empower. WAVE is a student-driven program in Santa Fe County that focuses on educating and helping students with topics such as preventing suicide, gun violence, substance use, and bullying. In light of recent events, on behalf of WAVE and myself, I would like to send my sincere sympathies to the families and friends of Akio, Ivan, and GB. Seeing the violence and tremendous losses that our community is now experiencing has brought upon the realization that we need to support our students better. Santa Fe Public Schools offers many resources through WAVE to help put an end to gun violence. Over the past 4 years, WAVE has spearheaded participation in the nation's student pledge against gun violence and raised awareness with a variety of art projects. Also, we know that there are often underlying issues that lead to gun violence, such as mental health issues, conflicts, and substance use. And WAVE engages in projects and school sites to address these issues and support overall student wellness. As a community, we can help prevent gun violence by making guns less readily available to minors. By acquiring gun safes or locks for homes that have guns, we prevent a possible catastrophe. Gun violence is preventable, and it is important that we stress that to our community. I hope that our students will reach out either through their school or through social media that we have if they ever need help. We are here for you. You are heard and you are cared for. Thank you, Dr. Garcia, for allowing me to speak at this press conference today.
Thank you, Ms. Jefferson and Ms. Quintana. Up next is Capitol High School Principal, Ms. Jamie Holliday, and a couple of students from Capitol High School.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. So I think first and foremost, the events that have happened over this summer are every parent's worst nightmare. And in addition to that, as a community, we're grieving, whether the students attended Capitol, Santa Fe High, or Academy. Their loss is a community loss. And so we need to come together as a community and take back what is right and to elevate ourselves and to be our best selves. And so students, one way you can do that is through the See Something, Say Something app. During our assemblies during the school year, many of you downloaded that program, and we were really effective with it during the school year. And so by using that, you're helping us to be proactive and to prevent any sort of tragedy or loss. And so please, we urge you, especially now that we are working remotely, reach out to us and know that that app still works and it still reaches out to all the pertinent people. I would also encourage our students and our community to join us in a pledge against gun violence, because as a community, we will build each other up and we will make our world a better place. Our young people truly are our future, and we need to make sure we're empowering them to make a positive difference in our society. So one of the people who I am confident will make our world a better place is Max Quintana, and he will be our next speaker.
Hello, I'm Max Quintana. I thank everybody for the opportunity to speak today. I know myself and my fellow students across Santa Fe Public Schools, are deeply saddened by the loss of, our three members of the community who lost their life too soon. And I send my condolences to, the family of the three young gentlemen who have passed too soon. And one thing I'd like to say about the whole issue is it can be hard. And for my fellow peers out there who, are directly or indirectly affected by it, I encourage them to get help. Gerard's House or the Sky Center. Please reach out to teachers, principals, superintendents, parents, anybody who can help you, mourn, in the correct way. I also urge my peers to sign the Pledge Against Gun Violence. And that's all I have to say about that matter. Thanks.
Thank you, Max. Up next from Capitol High is another senior, Alexandra Mendoza.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Well, first and most importantly, I want to give my condolences to Ivan Jr. and JB family. I'm so sorry, and my heart it truly broke when I heard the news. They were wonderful, they were compassionate and ambitious students. And well, I think the most important takeaway from here is to speak out and give the voice to students, because that's important and essential to progress in our community. And I encourage all students to sign the Pledge Against Gun Violence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Holliday, Mr. Quintana, and Ms. Mendoza. Our next speaker is Mr. Morano, Santa Fe High School principal.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm Carl Morano, principal at Santa Fe High School, and it's been one of the most difficult weekends I've ever experienced my entire life, losing a student. And as Ms. Holliday mentioned earlier, it's not just a student from Santa Fe High, it's all of our students in the community that we've lost this summer. And I not only want to say that, give our condolences as well to the victims, but also to those who carried out the acts as well, because they're suffering as well. And we care just as much about them. And for whatever reasons, they decided to carry out this violence. So I'm asking all of our parents, students, and families to really check in with each other, to check in and make sure we're doing okay, and keep the guns out of each other's hands, and making sure that we're all feeling okay. We have so many great resources in our community and our schools to help with those who are suffering, with those who need therapy, with those who need just someone to talk to. I'm born and raised in this community, and it's an honor to be the principal at a school that I graduated from and attended, and I care deeply about this community, and it's sad to see what is happening. And I just want all of us to come together. I want our community to keep growing. This is a place that I love, a place that I grew up in, and I want us all to pledge against this violence. And as Ms. Holliday mentioned as well, use the See Something, Say Something app, to use those. It's okay to say this is not okay. It's okay to use your voices and speak up. And it's just been a difficult summer for all of us, but we can do this. I believe in our community still. I believe in each other, and I still believe in this place that we call Santa Fe. It's just a beautiful city, and we're making it ugly right now. And I want to see it get back to the beautiful city that it is, because we're a culture that embraces everyone, and we should be embracing everyone and loving everyone. And so I hope that we can stand together, all of our students, families, and community members. And I have two great students from Santa Fe High that I know believe in that and that will speak today. So I want to thank everyone for speaking today, and for all the outpouring of support that we've received at Santa Fe High in our community, in our loss. And it says a lot about our community because we do have a lot of love in this community. So thank you to each and every one of you who have reached out. Without further ado, I'd like to announce our first speaker from Santa Fe High, our student, just an amazing young man, our senior who's getting ready to be our valedictorian in 2021, Mr. Ferris Wald. So Ferris, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. My condolences go out to everyone who's been affected this summer. It breaks my heart, the idea of people's lives being taken away just as it's about to begin. And these people, they're great individuals. And I know they would have done great, good things for the community. I want to mainly speak to my peers. And basically what I want to say is that in order to stop gun violence, I think the simple things in life matter too. Moments that we often overlook, moments where we maybe say to a friend who's sitting in the corner, hey, come over here, you want to talk? And moments where you reach out to people who are in need, who are suffering, who are angry. And that is something that needs to be done. We need to create an atmosphere of love, of acceptance, an atmosphere where we feel like we are allowed to speak our pains, our sufferings, and to allow each other to vent what's wrong with why we're so sad, to vent through means other than through gun violence. And my best advice to my peers is always choose the harder right than the easier wrong. If you see something that's not something you don't agree with, take that first step, take that hard first step, because it will pay off in the end. And to the parents, you guys are the mentors and the guardians of your children. Take the time to give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And most importantly, educate them, inform them, be their guide, tell them this is what you should do, this is what you should not do, and just help them navigate this very difficult time, this very difficult moment we're in. Because I mean, at times being a student, sometimes all you have in life is to look up to your parents and say, what do I do? I am scared, and be there, lend a hand out. So just overall take the initiative and be as open as you can. I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Wald. Our last speaker from Santa Fe High is Abby Janisek. Abby, you're on mute. And if you could turn your camera a little bit, there you go. Thank you. Oh, Abby, you went back on mute. Abby, go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Sorry about that. I think firstly, I'd like to give my condolences out to the families of JB, Ivan, and Junior. I think it's heartbreaking that their lives got taken so soon. And I mainly speak to my peers on this, that I think it's important that we know that we can speak to our teachers, our principals, our friends and families about anything that might be going on, and just make the right decision. If we see something that we don't agree with, or that scares us or makes us uncomfortable, to speak up about it, and to just do the right thing. And I think also to sign the pledge against gun violence, and just to really take a stand. I think it's heartbreaking that, that such great lives have ended so quickly. And I think we just need to count on each other and our families and friends and teachers.
Thank you, Mr. Morano, Mr. Wald, and Ms. Janisek. Santa Fe Public School Superintendent Dr. Veronica C. Garcia will close with a few remarks before we open up for questions.
Thank you, everyone. I'm speaking to you as a mother and a grandmother. When I recently spoke to Ms. Voss, it really was very painful. JB's grandmother. My grandkids play basketball, and I could see my grandsons, and one of them, the eldest, has very curly hair, and I could see pictures, and it just reminded me so much of my kids. And I don't think that the students know sometimes how much we all love them and care about them. Whether it's people from the board, your principals, your teachers, your counselors, you may not realize it. You know, I know when I was a kid in high school, I really didn't give much thought to who was superintendent. Maybe I paid attention a little bit to who the principal was, a few key teachers, but I don't think that, you know, they really know how much we really do love and care about you, and we do. And the pain that is in our community and the pain of the families of all the lives lost, whether lives have been lost not in reality, but in lives of incarceration, or lives that may be lost because of grief, that having lost really good friends in some way, that they may be affected forever, and the families that are torn apart by death. Just a natural death tears the family up. And I can't imagine a tragedy like this and a life cut short, what those families are going through. And all preventable. These deaths, that's what makes it even more painful, is that it was just so senseless and so preventable. And I think that's why we're all here today as a school community, to say that this has got to stop. You know, I say to our parents, be mindful of house parties. Let's not forget that there's a current pandemic, but apart from that, be cognizant of students' access to guns. Talk to your children. You heard that from our youth today. Talk to them. Find out where they're going and remind them to be careful. Each one of my grandsons that are in this age bracket, all 4 of them, I've got 9 grandchildren, but 4 of them that are in that age bracket, I talk to them about, be careful. If someone mouths off or something happens, walk away. There's always going to be disputes. It happened long before I was on this planet, and it's going to continue, right? It's human nature. But there's no dishonor in walking away. No dishonor in walking away. And we have so many more tools now. If you see something, say something. You think that there might be a party, there might be a gun somewhere. You can report that anonymously through the Sandy Hook Promise. That's what that was created for, not only for shootings at a school, but something that might happen in the community. You can anonymously help prevent a life being taken. If someone you know is feeling suicidal or depressed, I mean, the pandemic has been hard on everyone. And it has changed the way we live our lives, but there's help. And if you know of someone who might be depressed, let them know that there are so much support. You can use the Sandy Hook Promise app and that hotline for that too. Although the resources are on our website, and there's people there 24/7 to talk to you. Parents and families, help us by keeping guns locked and not allowing your minor children to possess guns. And if you know that they have them and you're not sure how to approach it, reach out to us. We can help you. Students are distressed, depressed, anxious. Please, again, I want to tell you that there are resources there to help you. We know that many times kids self-medicate with alcohol and drugs. We're here to help you. Students, please take the gun violence pledge. Let's shoot for 100% participation. Let's make that our goal, and let's make it a goal to end gun violence in our community. Lastly, students, we love you and we care about you so much. Please, let's all work together to make sure that these last 3 deaths be the last we mourn as a community. We are in remote, right? In so many ways. We're in a remote press conference right now. My first one, actually, in all the years I've done press conferences. We are remote, but we can stay connected. And let's remember that, right? That we are here, we can connect, we can still support each other. And as a community, I know that we are so much better and that we can move forward together, linking arms and supporting each other. And again, my deepest sympathy and condolences to the families, to all who knew these young men and who loved them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. We will now open up to the media for questions at this time through our chat box or by opening up your mic. Please type in the chat box if you'd like to have your mic live.
Mr. Chavez, if I may suggest, maybe they raise their hand, their blue hand, they can raise their hand if they put it over their name and we'll know who has a question. There you go.
There we go. Mr. Laughlin? Joe, can you go ahead and unmute his mic, please?
I would need to be made a host, please, sir. Or Alma would be able to unmute them.
Alma, can you unmute Mr. Laughlin?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and do that.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
My name is Ryan Laughlin. I'm a reporter for KOB4, and this question's open to anybody that wants to address it. But what effect, if any, do you think the fact that kids may not have the normal outlets that they usually have right now because of this pandemic is playing a role in the violence that we're seeing? We talked to a guy who runs the community center there in Santa Fe, and he had said, you know, it's a bummer that we don't have access and we can't get in front of these kids like we usually are. Do you think that's making an impact in the violence that we're seeing?
Somebody like to answer that question from our panel?
I think our students should address it. Ferris, you want to answer? I think that's important because I think the students need to speak on behalf of that instead of speaking for them. Ferris, you want to address it?
Sure. Regarding your question, I mean, I think the main problem is the isolation. I mean, for social distancing, I have been isolated for a very long time, and it makes it hard to sort of connect with other people, and you do feel isolated. I mean, I felt the same way too. But again, there's resources out there that students can use to communicate with each other. And outside of that, I still think that a good way to sort of prevent this gun violence is to be responsible when it comes to the use of firearms. But yes, the isolation has made things a little more difficult when it comes to that stuff.
I'm personally going to build off of what Ferris said. We do have many resources to help each other, and luckily we are living in the 21st century with plenty of technology. Although students are isolated from each other physically, we still have the opportunity to FaceTime each other and do Zoom calls. We just have to be creative. And for instance, WAVE has been putting together things through their Facebook to help the students stay occupied. There is ways other than parties and physical meetups that students can get together.
And just to add on to what they had both said, that, you know, I also think we can count to know that we have our families and to know that we have our friends, even if it's just over FaceTime or over a text. And, you know, we can occupy ourselves with going outdoors, playing games, spending time with our families. And I think that's a big part of helping this issue.
I would like to add to what the students said. Some of this, though, if you look at it, are happening in the wee hours of the morning. And I think that it's about access to guns. You have, there's been studies with young men about impulse control and some of these situations. We don't know for sure, but I would imagine when kids are at parties, I don't think they're drinking punch. I think that there's probably alcohol possibly involved. I don't know, but I know access to guns is a big key. And so that has been an issue that I know the board has taken on as a resolution. We would like to see more gun safety, like to see the legislature take this up. We all play a role in that. That is also it's a recipe for disaster, right? And unsupervised parties and that sort of thing, where it's just a bad mix combination of things, right? It would be my thought. I don't know if the principals would like to weigh in also.
If I
Or
could,
anyone else.
can I follow up on that, Dr. Garcia?
Yes.
Yeah, what role do parents have in this? One of the speakers at the vigil last night said that parents and the adults in the room have let kids down. Kids haven't changed all that much, but it's the watchfulness or the education of the parents or the people that are allowing these parties or the kids to be out way too late, have some responsibility in this. What can you say about the role parents play in helping curb this problem?
Well, I mean, we don't want to make parents the sole responsibility. I mean, I think it's all of us own pieces of it, but most certainly, I do think it plays a role. I know it's difficult. We have many parents who are working, in the evenings and whatnot, but I do think it's all of us working together that play a role in all of it. And our society, I mean, there's so many issues. It's a very complex issue. So we can't lay the responsibility solely at the the doorstep of the schools or law enforcement or community providers or the teenagers themselves or the parents. We all play a role in this, and is what I would say.
Mr. Laughlin, did you have any follow-up?
No, thank you for the thoughtful responses, everyone.
Absolutely, thank you. We have another individual with her hand up. Amanda, please go ahead and let us know who you are and what business you're associated with, please. Joe, if you can unmute Amanda.
Alma has the controls.
Alma, if you can unmute Amanda, please.
Yeah. She has, hold on.
She has been permitted. I think she needs to unmute her mic. We have given her permission to speak.
Okay. Amanda, if you can unmute your mic on your end, please. Amanda, if you're having trouble with that, you can also type it in the chat feature and I can read it for you. Oh, okay. She wants us to come back and she'll type it out. Do we have any other attendees that have a question for our panel? Oh, Amanda said she fixed it. Okay, Amanda, go right ahead. Amanda, you're still, your mic is still on mute. She's going to type out her question.
Larry, please note that Amanda's with the New Mexican.
Okay. Amanda is with the Santa Fe New Mexican.
Larry, while we're waiting for Amanda, do you want to see if anyone else has any other?
Yeah, I've been monitoring the attendees, and Amanda is the last one with her hand up.
I can ask a question if we wait for Amanda.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Dr. Garcia, you mentioned that you were interested in seeing the legislature take up the issue and that access to these guns is a huge problem. What's a meaningful legislation or what's a meaningful action that we could take to limit the amount of guns that are accessible in the community? Because it's kind of hard to put the genie back in the bottle when you already have all of these guns readily accessible. What does anybody think a meaningful solution would be to limit the access to guns?
This is Miranda with New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence. We worked with youth last year with the WAVE team to pass a child access prevention law. And we're hoping to do that again this session, because what that will do is it will make it so that gun owners are liable if their hands get in the hand of a young person and that person hurts him or herself or somebody else. And we have New Mexicans Prevent Gun Violence. We work with the youth who unfortunately pulled the trigger, who made that unfortunate impulsive decision. And if there hadn't been a gun, that trigger wouldn't have been pulled. And I have not met one youth who doesn't wish they could go back and unpull that trigger. But once the trigger's pulled, you can't go back. The thing we could do is pass a bill that would really help make sure that our guns are getting locked up. New Mexico is saturated with, and many of them are problems that would give us some help in this situation.
Thank you. And can you identify yourself? It says your number on the top, but can you just say your name and?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm actually on the road. This is Miranda with New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence. Miranda Viscoli.
Thank you.
I have Amanda's question in the chat box, so I will go ahead and read it out loud. What type of preventative measures do schools and facilities or faculty take if they identify a student who might be involved with drugs, alcohol, or guns?
This is Ms. Morano, Carl Morano, principal at Santa Fe High. So we immediately refer those students, Amanda, to our school wellness department. We have a wellness team that meets once a week, and I see Peter Bryan with us today, our director of student wellness. So
Carl, you muted yourself.
Ms. Morano, you're still on mute. There you go.
All right. So anyway, with those students who we find that are at risk, who need extra support, we immediately have some resources here on campus. We have a Presbyterian Medical Services counseling group that we can support with, our own school counselors here at the school. We also provide many outside resources to get them directly involved and get them the assistance they need immediately. So the hardest part I think we have at the school, and I encourage this to all of our students all the time and our families all the time. Some are very apprehensive about coming forward, about needing help. And so we kind of encourage our students to not be afraid, to not be apprehensive about reaching out, because we can't help what we don't know. And so unfortunately, sometimes it has to have a tragedy happen or something happen before they know they need assistance. So that's why we've gone to these measures to really encourage our students to report things so we can identify those students in need.
Jamie, you want to?
Yeah, I would like to add to that. In addition to what Mr. Morano mentioned, we also follow the code of conduct, and we work very closely with Mr. Salvidres and his department in terms of identifying a level of threat and then following through. We collaborate with JPO, with police, with parents and families, because we realize although we aren't solely responsible, it's a community problem, it's a community effort to address it. And so we definitely want to make sure that we are communicating with all of those pertinent individuals or organizations to make sure that all of our students on campus are safe, as well as getting the support for the student who is at risk.
I'm allowed to
I'd like to add
ongoing-
additionally that at the early primary levels, we have prevention curriculum and promote social emotional learning as early prevention. We also have behavioral health referral processes that when students are struggling, we refer them to services, including the teen health centers at both high schools, which is really critical. And also in that referral process, we also have a restorative justice program across the district and restorative justice coordinator that works closely with students to resolve some of these conflicts in productive and non-punitive ways, as well as our programs like WAVE and Natural Helpers that work directly with our students to encourage them to reach out to reduce that stigma of mental health challenges and struggles, and reduce that stigma of reaching out for help and support.
One of our personal projects as the WAVE group at Santa Fe High, one of our projects that we've been working on is we've realized that students more often talk to their peers than an authority figure. So we have created a small group through our WAVE group to try and encourage the students to come to us so that we can help them find the resources that they need if they are struggling with substance abuse, bullying, or mental health issues, so we can prevent huge things like this.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions from the media? Looks like that takes care of all the questions in the chat. We have no more questions. So for those that are still in attendance as far as the media, if you have any additional media requests or want us to field any additional questions, I'm putting Cody Donarski and his contact information in the chat box. So please start to use that as a point of contact to request any further media. And we thank you guys for all attending, thank our panel, and thank the media for being in attendance today. Thank you guys.